taken my fabric and put it on some heat and bond, and then added some tissue paper to the back, and I just kind of rough cut it out so that I have that ready. These little strips here were cut. These are what is going to create the spine on my new book. So I'm going to glue these together. Put a couple of clamps on them to just kind of hold them while that glue sets up. Set that to the side. And then these need to be cut out a little bit better. So I'm just going to cut these out. And these are going to go in here. So and then I'll get this one cut out, and then we're going to be applying this on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one cut out, and I'll be right back. All right, so when I was removing the pages, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I actually sliced through the book. So I want to reinforce that. So what I'm going to do is use a piece of Tyvek. And this is just a postal mailer that I had left over from a package. And I'm just going to mark a line here that's the width of the book. And then I want to go an inch beyond that. So I'm just going to put my ruler where my line is. There we go. I'm going to draw a line. Alright, so that is the length that I want to cut this to. And it's only about a 1/2 inch spine, so it doesn't need to be really wide. Alright, so I cut this about just under 3 inches wide, and I've cut it so that I can put it in here and wrap it around. So we're going to do this first. Let me get some glue. Okay. I'm just going to kind of center that. And then I have my tool here that is, this is actually for polymer clay, but it's a nice round metal ball. And so it will help me to push that into the groove. And then I'm just going to flip this over and bring up my ends. And because I want this to stick, I'm going to go ahead and clamp this across. And we're going to let this dry. A little bit more glue on this end. And a couple more clamps. Now I'm only doing this to add some stability to the spine. It is not imperative, but while we're here, we're going to go ahead and glue in our center strip, which we glued earlier, and we put some clamps on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on this. We're going to put that where it needs to be, and then I'm going to clamp that back in place. Alright, so now I'm going to let this set up, and while it does that, I'm going to set up for the next portion here, which is going to be actually gluing the book cloth on. So I will be back in just a few minutes when this is all nice and dried and set up, and we will work on getting our book covered. Alright. So we are all bound together. We've reinforced that spine. And so we're going to be putting the book cloth on. And so we go ahead and open this. And this is just the glue that I use to bind books. It's nothing special. It's Aleene's water and a little clear glue. And I'm just going to use a paintbrush to put this on. I'm going to make sure I get glue in the divot here. And you can use whatever glue you want. So once I have a reasonably nice coat on here, then I can flip this over. Put it on. Now I did dog ear the fabric, and the reason that I did that was so that I had less bulk. And then I'm going to turn this over on my board, and I'm going to use a bone folder to just kind of press this down, and you could just do this with your hands if you wanted to. Entirely up to you. Now I do have those ridges here. We want to make sure that we get that nice and stuck down in there. Now originally I was going to do a faux binding on this, but because I had to reinforce it, you can see that white piece, so we're going to be covering this on the outside. So once I have this on here, and I'm just going to put glue on the two ends. And we're going to bring those in. And we're going to be doing the long sides. Now when I tuck this, you see how that's going to bulk? So we need to push this in when we're folding, okay? So we're going to put some adhesive here. Now you'll notice I'm not going all the way to the edge of the book cloth. The reason for that is when I flip this over and I'm flattening it out, I don't want too much of this to goo out all over the place. So what I'm going to do is take the tip of a bone folder. I'm going to press this in, and I'm going to bring this side up so I can create a nice tuck. Okay. Making sure that I have my adhesive on there, because I don't want to get glue on the book, so I always keep a little bit of paper towel here because I don't want to get glue on the fabric. And then we'll come down and we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to do a little bit of a push in here, and then bring this up. Pushing that in. And just add a little bit of glue as I need to. And then I'll do the other side, and I'm going to set this with some clamps and give it about half an hour or so to dry. All right, so we have glued our fabric, our book cloth, onto our book. Now, when I did the repair here, it shows, so we're going to cover this. And then I went inside and I said, you know, with that tear, I'm not going to be able to do the faux. So on the fly, we're going to change this up. I'm not going to be able to do a hidden binding. I'm going to do a faux hidden binding. So I've got these. And I noticed when I put them in that the like orangey color on the inside here kind of showed through. So I wanted to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is I painted this all light blue on the inside. And I'm going to trim these up a little better, get rid of that black if I can. And then I'm going to go over this, and I pulled some rickrack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some rickrack around these. And I will cut and measure and make everything look proper. And we're going to glue some rickrack around here. And use it as a frame on these fabric pieces. And then in the center, I have like a huge amount of this new lace that I got. And so I'm going to take a piece of this, and it's going to go right here in the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and bind through this. And since I'm going to be putting something on the outside, you're not going to see the binding. Now, because this book is so small, I'm going to do a 3-point binding. I normally don't do a 3-point, but I'm going to do a 3-point on this one because it is so small. So, let's get started. First, we'll get our fabric panels in, and again, we're just going to use a little Aleene's here. And a brush. And let's go ahead and trim just a little bit of this. We're going to trim the corners, round them out a little bit. Now, I could do this with a corner rounder, but it's just as easy to do with a pair of scissors. Get this last corner rounded. Go. And then I'm just going to put some glue on the back here. Now, I don't want to put too much glue because I don't want it squishing out everywhere. in. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this side for you guys, and then I'll do the other side. All right. So now I have it where I want it. Start in one corner. We're going to get our rick put in. Now you could use hot glue to do this. You could use 3-in-1, whatever fabric glue you want to use. You could even use Aleene's. It's pretty good with fabric. Okay. We're just going to kind of put this in. Our way around the corner. So the one nice thing about rickrack is it bends pretty nice. Okay. Time to refill my Fabri-Tac. Getting low. Okay. Come around our corner. Come down here. All right. So that is one side. And that's basically how I'm going to make this look on the inside. And then I'm going to be gluing my piece of ribbon, piece of lace, here. And I'm going to glue it on the sides here. So let's put a little glue on this. Sides, tops. Eek. I'm not going to glue the center because I have to go through that with a needle. So, just going to put a little bit of glue on here. Ugh! I hate when stuff sticks to my fingers. Alright. So let's find the center. I'm going to be gluing this at the center. Down the sides. And of course, if I need to add any more glue, I just put it in here. There we go. A little bit up here. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry, get the other side done, and then I will be back and we will move on to the next part of this, which is going to be actually putting in our papers, figuring those out and getting those put in. I'll be right back. Alright, so we are done with the inside. We've put our rickrack around. We have our panels glued in. We have a piece of lace here in the middle, and this is where we're going to be doing our binding. And it's going to be coming through the back here, so not a problem. I want to add something extra to this one, okay? Because it is only, you know, signal signature, so I want to put a little pocket in here on with the signature inside of it. So you'll have the signature inside of here, and you'll have two little pockets on this. So to do this, I'm going to use an 8 inch wide by 11-inch long piece of paper and my scoreboard. And you can do this with any size. So I'm just going to divide this in half at 5.5 inches. And then I'm going to turn it, and I have 8 inches. I'm going to go about 3.5, 3.25 to create a pocket. Okay? Pretty easy. But I need to be able to get this to lay flat when I fold it. And if you've ever folded in a piece of paper, you know that that does not always happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out on the pocket end, we're going to cut out the score line by simply cutting up one side to the score line, and then we're going to go and cut up the other side to the score line. And all we're really doing is just taking that little bit of bulk out. Just cut that off. Okay? Now, I can fold my pockets. And then when I fold this in, I'm going to be able to line this up corner to corner, edge to edge, and then hit it with my bone folder. And then you can either just glue these down if you want, or you can, put a soffit in there to ease it a little bit. Entirely up to you. You can add paper before you glue all this down. Entirely up to you. If you're going to soffit this, that little 1/2 inch strip that you cut off the end, that's going to be a great thing to do that with. You just score it down the middle, fold it in half, cut it to the length that you need, and just put those on the, I would only put them on the outside. You don't want to put any more bulk on the middle here, okay? So, let's go ahead and do this before we move into the rest of this. So what do we want to put on the outside? What do we want to put on the inside? And I'm thinking the outside, we'll just decorate it. And I think we'll just do the pockets inside. So let's find something that we like. Something not too over the top. And these are 3.5 inches. So 3 inches will be just what we need. And they are 5.5. So we need this piece to be 5 inches by 2 pieces that are 5 by 3. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get those cut real quick. And the first thing I'm going to do is just cut this down to 5. We'll save that. We might be able to use it for something else. And then I'm going to cut this at 3. All right. We'll go ahead and ink these up and then glue them on here just as we would any other mat. So if you were going to round edges or anything like that, you'd want to get that done before you do the inking, of course. But since I'm not rounding the edges on the pockets, I'm not going to round the edges here. And then we're just going to want to put these on. And I'm just going to use some tape for the purposes of doing this quickly. All right. Bring this in. This is going to be about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay. And then if I want to punch my half circle here, I can do that simply by using a small punch and putting it in. I just want to measure that middle spot. And I'm going to go ahead and apply the other one to the other side, and then we're going to go ahead and do the soffit. So let me show you how to do that on this side, and that way you're not sitting here watching me do 2 of these, okay? So I've got about a 1-inch strip here. Somewhere around here I have a scoring tool. Here it is. And I'm just going to score this lightly down the center. Fold it over. Hit it with my bone folder. Bad paper. Okay. Go ahead and burnish that out. And then I know that this piece here is at 3.5 inches. So I'm going to cut my strip at 3.5 inches. And I know I'm going to need 2 of them, one for each side. So I'll just cut them both right now. There's 1. 2. All right. We've done this a few times. You guys know how to do this. We're going to go ahead and take this from the folded edge, bevel it in, glue. I don't recommend that you use tape on this. And the reason for that is that tape doesn't always dry. You know, tape is tape. It's meant to be sticky, and it stays that way. All right. So once we have that on, we're going to bring this in. We're going to come right into the corner, place this down, putting the fold right along the edge. A little glue on the top. Bring this over. Press it down. Okay. Now I'm not going to worry about the inside here, you know, having enough lift. So all I'm going to do is just clean this up. I'm just going to put a thin bead of glue right there, and I'm just going to glue that down. Okay, now that's going to give me a pocket that's going to have some depth on the one side over here, and it's just going to be flat on the other side. I'm going to do the other side of this, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about the paper that we're going to be putting in for the signature and how we're going to get that in. Now we have our little folio made, and as you can see, I made 2 little pockets on this so we can put stuff into them. Now here's the thing with these. If you use these paper studio punches, on the side there's a little arrow right here. If you line up the edge of your paper with those little arrows, it's exactly the half of the circle. So when people ask me how do you get that exact half circle, I cheat. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the paper in here. We're going to be putting some paper in the book. Now we know that our paper has to be, the book is 5 inches tall, so our paper has to be about 4.5 inches. Our pocket is right at 4.5 inches from top to bottom. And from one end to the other, it's about 5.5, because our book gets us out to just about 5 3/4. So I've taken some paper, some 8.5 by 11, and I've cut up some pieces here. These are 4.5 inches by 11, which is 5.5 inches when we fold these in half. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold these in half right now, all of the ones that I have here. Use my bone folder, press these down a little bit. And then I have a couple of different types of paper here. Let's talk about what we have. So I have 3 pieces of tea-dyed linen. 3 pieces tea-dyed linen. I have 1 piece of 32-pound cotton, not dyed. And then I have a piece of pink blush and 2 pieces of ocean blue. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and start putting these together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate between a color and tea. Just like that. Okay. And then this is actually going to go inside here. And then we're going to clamp this. Top and bottom. Top and bottom. Now to put this into the book, we have to punch some holes. So I have here a piece of foam, my book, and I use these lines on here. There's lines on my paper, on my foam here. I'll show you. So there's lines on my foam. Yeah, I cheat. I use those to line up where I want my holes to be. Just like that. Bring in my paper, put my fold right on that line, equal top and bottom spacing, that looks pretty good. Now normally I would do a template, but because this one is so small I'm not going to. What I am going to do is I'm going to come in to about 3 3/4. Push my hole. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to split this distance between here and the end. So right about there. Hole. And this distance to the bottom. Right about there. Hole. Now remember, I'm going through 3 pieces of chipboard, fabric, lace, glue, 6 pieces of paper, and a piece of cardstock. Now you'll notice that I have different colored clamps. These are brighter pink. These are like an orangey color. That is so I remember that that's the top and that's the bottom. And then I'm going to get out some waxed thread and a needle. And I'm going to be using white today. General rule of thumb, you roughly want at least twice the distance, 3 times the distance of what you're going to be doing. I use my thread for other things, so I don't care if I cut off bigger pieces. Okay. Now, stitching in the pages is basically a matter of sewing in a figure 8 when you're doing a 3-piece binding. Let me get this needle. Old eyes. Okay. So I'm not going to double my thread. I'm going to keep it in 1 piece. And I'm going to go through the first hole in the center. come out. And what I tend to do is I tend to put a clamp on that. Okay? Then I'm going to go up to the top hole, put my needle through, and then come back through my pages. And then I have to go back down through this center hole again. So that always helps to be able to pull that and have it weighted. Back through my center hole. Snug it nice and tight. And then I'm going to come back up through the bottom. Okay? Now, what I do is I take this thread and I bring it up and I put my needle underneath the two threads. So, let me show you. So you see there's two threads there? I go under those two threads, and then I bring my thread back down towards me. You can get rid of these clamps at this point. Everything is pretty much held together. Okay, so I'm literally going against each other. I'm going to pull as tight as I want. I'm not going to tear the paper, but I want to make sure that I don't have any play in this. See how there's some play there? There's some lifting. I don't want it to lift. And then I'm going to tie a score knot. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim those. And that's it. I've stitched in my signature. One little simple signature. It's in the book. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and bring this together. I'm going to take a look. Not too bad. So when we open our book, we're going to have a nice pocket here in the front, which we will decorate. See, nice little pocket. Then we're going to have pages in our book. Nice little pages. Our nice center page, another pocket in the back, and our beautiful print. Okay? Our book is nice and even. So when I come back, we're going to be starting on some decorating of the pages and decorating of the book itself. And we're going to be doing our covering here. And that will be the next step and the kind of the finishing process for this. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I will be more than happy to answer those for you as best I can. Until I see you again, if you haven't done so already, this is your first time here, do me a favor, go hit that red button for me. Like me, ring my bell, share me with all of your friends, and then your friends can be my friends can be your friends, and our friends can get to be friends, and that is what a community is all about. Until the next time, stay safe, guys. Bye-bye.